landscapes. But it's often the changing needs of Mother Nature with the seasons that makes this place so special. On this episode of Travel Wild, I was heading to the top end of the Northern Territory, which is located in the top centre of Australia. The Northern Territory is 6 times the size of Great Britain, but the majority of it is still wild and remote. It has large scenic national parks, including Nitmuluk and the world-famous Kakadu, which I could not wait to explore. Sometimes this land is dry and thirsty, but any time after September, the monsoonal rains start, and this part of our country explodes into life. I've returned to Nitmuluk in the wet season to see what the life-giving rain does for this countryside. And this is one of Australia's best kept secrets, because most people come up here in the dry season, but the wet season, look around, it's just green, lush, and absolutely beautiful. Wes, you have magnificent country here. How big is it?
It's almost the size of Switzerland. So it's something like 50,000 square kilometres.
And you're referred to as the Jawoyn people?
The Jawoyn people, yeah.
Now, this used to be Katherine Gorge, but it's now referred to as Nitmuluk. What happened there? Is it the traditional name for the area?
It is. After the land claim, we decided that we'll give it our name, which was Nitmi, a spirit ancestor who came here, heard the cicada, which goes nit, 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 so he named it Nitmi. And Luk is place, so Nitmuluk.
So if people were coming from around the world to experience your country, you'd tell them to take the time to do both seasons?
You can't see our country completely until you see both aspects of it. See the dry and it's still and it's quiet, everything's tranquil. You come back in the middle of wet and then it's a torrent. There's water coming off the escarpment, the ground's wet. The whole landscape comes alive in the wet season. And we've got quite some magnificent waterfalls anyway, Northern Rockall, Southern Rockall, 17 Rock. So those waterfalls are truly spectacular, as good as anywhere else you've seen. I mean, people come here and are amazed at the amount of water that we have here in the wet season.
We're off to Nippenjun's safari camp, known as the Dreaming Place, where for thousands of years, young Aboriginal men and women went to be initiated. Now, the best way to see these very special places in Nitmuluk is by helicopter. With such a large area to explore, I decided to head to a remote location in the middle of nowhere. The flight along the 13 gorges offered an insight into the flowing waters. But then we went cross-country to a place called Centipede Dreaming, where the river begins in a series of beautiful falls. Then we went out toward Nippenjun to be at one with nature. Nippenjun stands for fish, water and palm. And when you take a look around here, that's basically what this place depicts. But there's nothing better than coming to these remote places and just sitting down, stopping and listening. And if you want, you can even stay here in the bush camps and soak up a bit of the indigenous culture. But there's nothing better than having a whole waterfall all to yourself. The rains in the afternoon are unpredictable, with most of the thunderstorms late in the afternoon and the evenings, all resulting in spectacular storms. But if you dare to chance the weather, you will see the Northern Territory waterfalls in flow at their very best. You've made it to Edith Falls.
This is Edith Falls, or Lellan. It's basically on the edge of the escarpment, and all the Edith River cascades down into a big pool here.
Ah, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. It's a place that you can swim at during the dry season when the water's a bit lower. The wet season, though, because we get so much water down, you can cause dangerous currents and everything like that. So swimming's not normally recommended.
So Edith Falls was called after the guy that found Katherine, after his daughters?
John McDowell Stewart actually named a couple of areas, a couple of rivers from Chambers' daughters, and Katherine was one of them, Edith and Flora.
So this is Edith's Falls.
But the place for the Jawan people is known as Lellan.
Lellan. So is there something special about this place?
Well, this area here, as most waterholes in the area, always have got significance for Jawan people over thousands of years. This place here is said to be where the frill-neck lizard is, and if you actually have a look out, you can see the frills of the frill-neck lizard.
So this whole river was absolutely vital importance to the indigenous culture because it was like their water supply.
That's right,
yeah.
As with the other rivers in the area. And if you can imagine during the long dry season, so you've got 7-8 months without any rain, and you've got a constantly flowing water source in the area, very important.
It allows them to stay here all year round rather than having to move away from the area.
Yeah. They might have moved into areas away from the lowland to the highland into the stone plateau to avoid the storms and rising waters.
So we've got 75% of what savanna land?
Intact savanna.
Intact. Yeah. Why do you think that's it, just the lack of population?
Well, that'd be it at the moment, definitely, and the development. We've only just recently started developing the country as far as that goes.
And how important do you think that is for the environment?
Well, it's got to be important because it protects our biodiversity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the health of our country and the health of us, essentially.
Yeah.
A little native grape for you.
So they look like grapes?
Oh, yeah, very small. Probably about the size.
Is that them?
Current. That's them starting. During the dry season, you wouldn't know these plants are around. There's just nothing. So this time of year they start sprouting up, and then through to about March, April, even into May, you actually get they're grapes, and it's dark grape coloured, but they're only quite small.
So a bit more like sultana size.
Yeah, about sultana size.
Bush survival tucker feed, is it?
Well, yeah, I actually like to think that the whole place is one great big supermarket.
Yeah.
So if you have survival in the supermarket, yeah, I guess, but you just need to know where to look. And of course our Aboriginal friends have done that very well.
This is amazing. This is wet season grass that grows up to 2 metres in height. Now in the dry season, this would be all open and none of this would be here, but now it's like bush bashing, real Australian bush. With the wet season comes an influx of nature. A large black flying fox colony had taken up residence along the river and was making the most of wet season fruits and flowering plants that were now available around Nitmuluk. It was a community all living together, and each bat will groom their fur and wing membranes, keeping themselves meticulously clean. White-bellied sea eagles, they're sitting on the tree branches. I can see one through here just watching all the bats, and every now and then the bats just go crazy, so I think they know that they're there, just waiting for a bat to move the wrong way. With so many bats, these eagles looked pretty well fed. This river system and surrounding rivers of Nitmuluk help to support many animal species. Many people look at nature as noisy or as pests if they eat our food, but many species of plants rely on the flying fox to pollinate and disperse seeds, and the ecosystem relies on them. The more we embrace and share this world, the more we will maintain the balance of our planet. But the more we exterminate species, we are indirectly threatening our own lives and our future.
Most of our country is now back under our control.
And the good news is you're actually going for ecotourism.
We are, because it's our philosophy, it's a sustainable way. We want the country to stay as it is for the next generation and then the generations after that. So we look after the country to look after us.
It's spectacular to see Nitmuluk in both the wet and the dry seasons, and both seasons offer you just incredible experiences. Katherine River is the lifeblood for this entire area, flowing down through the gorges and nourishing the land, supporting so many bird, plant and animal species. But just remember, just because they call it the wet season doesn't mean it always rains. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's just the moods of Mother Nature.
After exploring the ruggedness of Nitmuluk, it was time to head north to Kakadu. The main highways here are still open most of the year around, and the drive takes you past typical Australian bush and the termite mounds that clearly stand out.
Now, another feature you'll often find in the Northern Territory landscape are these massive termite mounds. Now, one of these mounds will be home to thousands and thousands of hungry little termites.
Once you cross into Kakadu, you realise why people come from around the world to see this environment.
We've finally made it to Kakadu, and I'm at Kawinda. Now, I'm going to take a yellow water cruise to see some of the amazing wildlife that we have here in Kakadu. Hi, Jessica.
How's it going?
Good.
That's good.
You got us on board?
Yeah.
Beautiful. This is really beautiful, just cruising along here. And we're on the lookout right now for crocs, because there's supposed to be about 250 crocs in this water. But some of the things you see here, you see an incredible amount of bird life in Kakadu. It's the wet season right now, so there's probably not quite as much wildlife as what you'd see in the dry season, but it's absolutely beautiful. It makes up for it in many other ways. So Mandy, this is absolutely gorgeous country you've got here. Have you been here all your life?
Yeah. Lived and grown up here all my life.
And are you the traditional owners to this place?
This is my mother's country. Yeah, so we have an important role to be responsible and look after it as well. So it's just as important.
So what's the name of your people?
Our clan group is called Morumburu.
And tell me what's so special about these floodplains here at Kakadu?
Not only for us as Aboriginal people is it important, it's important for a lot of the wildlife. People used to travel throughout this area because of the abundance of food, and magpie gooses, which is one of the most popular bush tucker that we eat during the dry season.
So how does this land change during the different seasons? Because you've got a distinct wet and dry season here.
Well, really, we have 6 seasons, and basically those different seasons identify different distinct features within those seasons, also different foods as well. So, otherwise commonly there's, in the Balanda world, Balanda meaning European, there's usually just a wet and a dry. Kakadu is unique, and we have 7 different habitats, all of which are important as each other. And looking after the environment, Yellow Waters is a party to the Ramsar Agreement, which is an agreement that basically says we will look after not only Yellow Waters, but all of the other places that are within that agreement, so that all the wildlife that depend on that kind of habitat are able to have those environments, flourish and not have any development on them.
But part of the beauty about the cruise was you can get up close and personal to many of the birds that call Kakadu home.
It's Australian darter.
Australian darter?
Yeah, but it's also known as a snake neck darter. You go in the water, about 4 depth underwater, and take their breath up for like 45 seconds.
So that's what they do. They sort of see a fish. That's pretty cool. What's she saying there?
Probably pulling out for the fish.
So this one's a female. How can you tell?
Because it's white breast and neck.
There's a beautiful little kingfisher up here as well. Got these beautiful blue little wings on it, just up here. Do you know what type of fish kingfisher?
It's forest kingfisher. Yeah, there's 5 species of those kingfishers.
He is a beauty. You don't often get close to big salties like this. We've got about a 3-metre salty next to the boat, and look at him go under the water like stealth. But these guys have been around for about 300 million years, and they are an ultimate predator. They've gone through all types of climatic change. The cold-blooded allows them to be able to hibernate through periods when they can't eat, so they might go months and months without food. These guys are real dinosaurs. You can just see how ancient he looks. Every part of him is perfected over millions and millions of years of evolution. All they've got to do is go down 1 foot and you wouldn't even know they're there. So you could just imagine if you were swimming in a river system like that, you'd have absolutely no chance of knowing where these crocodiles are. So how did you live with crocodiles on your doorstep?
Yeah, we grew up with crocodiles swimming around for like fire snakes and that, but we do that because they got bad breath. You can actually smell them when they got their mouth open. Otherwise, we just know, what to do at the time if we do bump into crocodiles. Probably Mum would have mentioned that we run 100 miles an hour to the bank.
It's so nice to finally be seeing Kakadu from the water and understanding what a vital ecosystem this is. The whole area is a flooded plain, which is what the wet season's all about. It's interesting to also learn that they have 6 seasons, not just a wet and a dry, but it is the changing moods of nature.
Now, because Kakadu is so big, the only way to really see this place as well is by helicopter.
From the air, you really start to see the expanse of Kakadu and how untouched the majority of this land is. This aerial view also allows you to clearly see the 6 main habitats, which include savanna woodland, monsoon forests, southern hills and ridges, stone country, tidal flats and coastline, billabongs and flooded plains. 140 million years ago, Kakadu was under a shallow sea. This dramatic escarpment that today towers above the landscape was once the shoreline, but it now harbours lush monsoon rainforest gullies, which make their way up to some of the most spectacular waterfalls in Australia, like the stunning Jim Falls. I was in heaven, just taking in the wonderful sights and trying to cope with the enormity of this beautiful land. And that's what I loved about being here in wet season. The waterfalls were epic, and the Jurassic-looking valleys with their lush vegetation are simply at their very best. The abundant water supports the whole ecosystem and turns a dry land into a land that offers so many other species the chance to survive. Like so many habitats around the world, this lush environment depends on seasonal rains. And with the loom of global warming, it's important to monitor any changes. If we live with nature, in turn, our planet will continue to offer us life.
Thanks, Cameron. That was absolutely awesome. Best place in the world. We're on our way to Embark, where you can see the indigenous art from this area. And it's also a good place to look over the floodplains. So a lot of the art around here tells a story or teaches you something. And this art's here to remind traditional owners to tell a story which warns people about stealing. So they'll probably bring other people up here and show them this painting, which teaches them not to steal. Just up here from the story of the stealing, there's some beautiful yellow art. There's a long-necked turtle and some barramundi. And this gives us a really good idea of how old this art is. It's under 2,000 years. It's the freshwater period. So they wouldn't have been around in this area before then. I just love the caves. They're just incredible, aren't they? Is this the main one?
Yeah, so this is the main shelter. So it was occupied.
Is this cave where they painted their catch? Is that what it's known for, or is it just happened?
So it's known that families would come here and bring what they had caught. So yeah, it was a family shelter as opposed to a place where ceremonies or law was carried out. So
you can see goannas and barramundis and kangaroos and freshwater turtles.
They would catch a mullet and put it on the bank, and often it would pretend it was dead and then flip back into the water. So every time you caught a mullet, you have to chop its head off. So often they paint them with their head cut off.
So they can't pretend to be dead and flip back?
Yeah. So I guess on the rock you can clearly see that art is such an integral part of culture, and if you go anywhere around Australia, you'll see art in Aboriginal societies, and they might not be painting on rocks anymore, but painting on canvas and painting right around Australia is very much alive and well, and it's fine art, really.
Now this is an interesting rock because this is where they used to grind things up. You can see these holes here where they probably had a tool that they ground the ochre or the stone or what they might be painting with, or maybe even their food that they were eating. Laura told me there's a really special one here that is a thylacine. And I'm from Tassie, and I thought thylacines were only in Tasmania, but this is proof that they were all throughout Australia at some stage, probably about 4,000 years ago. So a lot of the laws that they needed to tell people and how to behave in society were actually drawn on walls. Unlike us, where I guess we have, pieces of paper where we draw up contracts, or we might put some legal stuff on paper, they put it up here. So it's their way of teaching. And I think the beautiful thing about it is we probably only see the tip of the iceberg of all the art that may be around the Northern Territory, just what we're supposed to see. But the history and the culture and what you have here in Kakadu is just massive. Some of this art, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. It's been such a wonderful journey experiencing Kakadu during the wet season. And to be able to see it from the air, you just realise how vast this landscape is. And then to be able to walk through so many changing environments and see the wonderful Indigenous art that's found throughout this entire area, knowing that the Aboriginal culture is alive and well. And the good news is, it's also World Heritage listed. So hopefully, for generations to come, we can all enjoy this incredible environment.